Professor Woesler, welcome to CGTN. It's a pleasure to have you on today.
Thank you very much.
You're now a professor of Chinese studies, translation studies, and comparative literature at Hunan Normal University. I wonder if you feel at home now in Hunan. Do you eat chili peppers like a local here in Hunan?
Well, I've been in Chengdu before, so I'm used to hot and spicy food. However, the Hunan cuisine is really world famous, so I love it a lot. I try to do it by myself a little bit at home, but I think the best food I still get in the restaurants here and when I'm invited to families here. So I really feel at home in Changsha, and Changsha is really a lovely place, a mid-sized city with very nice natural environment, with mountains you can climb, with lakes, and really beautiful. So Changsha is the place to be in China.
Pretty much every sinologist that I talk to has a great origin story to tell about how their fascination with China and Chinese culture started. I understand in your case, it was Chinese poetry. Can you share with us your personal story?
I was still a high school kid, 17 years old, and I didn't know anything about China. But then there was a literature festival, and there was a delegation coming from China, and the head of the delegation was Lu Yuan, a poet from Beijing, and he quoted his poem, he recited his poem, and the audience, 500 students in that castle in Münster, they were really moved. But they couldn't understand. But while he was reciting, the tears were coming down from his eyes, so people were moved and wanted to know what he was actually talking about in his poems. And then there was a translation, and people understood that he talked about his own life experience in China, which is ups and downs. So I talked with Lu Yuan after his lecture, and he said, "Wow, it looks like you're interested in China, so why don't you learn Chinese?" And he gave me a present. It was a bamboo brush and an inkstone, and he said, "Just learn Chinese, and when you will have learned Chinese, please write me a letter." And so I actually started to learn Chinese, and I wrote him a lot of letters.
I understand you've been working on revisions of the German versions of the Dream of the Red Chamber. Can you share with us your latest work on that?
I think both translating Chinese literature into German and sometimes into English is a lifelong mission for me. When I visited Lu Yuan in Beijing, I also went to the bookstores and saw that there is so much European literature being translated into Chinese. And I remembered from the German bookstores there was almost nothing. And still until today we have less than 1% of the foreign literature being published in Germany, which comes from China. So there's an imbalance, and this is my mission for the life. I want to translate more Chinese literature into German. And the most important for me is the Dream of the Red Chamber. And very shortly after I met Lu Yuan in Münster, I started to attend the university and to study Chinese studies. And there I selected the Dream of the Red Chamber course as a reading course. And I compared the translation we had already in Germany since the 1930s and with the original, and I discovered there was just 1/3 of the original text was translated into German. But I think it's a treasure, it's an encyclopedia of Chinese culture. And it has helped me so much to understand about Chinese culture, especially traditional Chinese culture, in so many aspects, that I want to share that with the German readers. And because I said it's a lifelong mission, we did so many revisions on our manuscripts before we published the first edition. And then also Dr. Schwarz had a lot of ideas what to change on my translation. So he gave me a lot of recommendations. And so finally we came up with a third edition, which was satisfying to him and to me, and which was finally published by the Weiban Chumanshe Foreign Language Press in Beijing. And they made this wonderful edition with 6 volumes, hardcover, with German and Chinese to compare, which is also good for students who learn Chinese.
On the topic of Tang Dynasty poetry, would you say there's a particular Tang Dynasty poem that is more widely known, more popular in Germany?
If you ask any Chinese student, he could quote a lot of Tang Dynasty poems. I only would refer to Li Bai, maybe, which is most famous in Germany. And people, I think they are not so much attracted by the poems and the lines of the poems themselves, but by the culture behind it and the motifs used in these poems. So, for example, everybody knows the poem about the Li Bai who is lying there and wondering whether or not this moonlight lit grass is snow already. And people then, when they read things like that, they have so many associations, and they would slowly understand the Chinese motive of the moon, for example, what the moon means, the reunion of the family. Very often people work in different places in China, and only on certain occasions like the Moon Festival they come together, or in the Spring Festival, and reunite. And this is something very important, a family value in China, where I think Germany, actually the German society, can learn from the Chinese cultural achievements over thousands of years. Family values are very important, and this becomes more true even today.
What type of feedback or reactions have you had towards the translated works by you on Chinese literature in Germany? Do you think there is an appetite in Germany for Chinese literature at the moment?
Absolutely. I think the problem is only that there's not enough Chinese literature which has been translated into German so far. If there would be a range of books, a variety of topics, people could more easily identify which kind of literature they like mostly within the Chinese literature. So, of course, the great names like Liu Cixin with Santi, the Three-Body Problem, and Mo Yan, of course, especially his early works, I think are very popular in Germany. And also, I think the classical novels like The Dream of the Red Chamber. There is a survey in Germany about the most popular long bestsellers in Germany. And The Dream of the Red Chamber achieved the 4th place. So, of all the world literature being available in Germany. And this really shows that the German audience is interested in Chinese culture, in the Chinese world literature. Also, Lu Xun is so popular in Germany. So Lu Xun was introduced very early in German translation and was broadcasted nationwide. There are so many connections. So for the Guangren Riji, the Diary of the Madman, we have a similar work of literature by Kafka, The Metamorphosis. So there we also have a realistic setting, but just one fictional element, Gregor Samsa, who is turned into a bug suddenly. But then Kafka describes very detailed how this fictional element would live in a realistic setting, in a real environment. And Lu Xun does the same. So he just uses this one fictional metaphor of people eating other people, and puts this in a reality of that time. And he uses it to criticize the feudal society, of course. And I think this is so important.
You've mentioned a couple of Chinese writers that have gained international fame. Nobel laureate Mo Yan, one of them, a science fiction writer, Liu Cixin. What do you think accounts for their successes on the international book scene? And these are personal successes, but could they also pave the way for more Chinese writers to be introduced to the international stage here?
So first of all, I think Mo Yan was very successful because he has a variety of styles. I like his early works a lot because he's unconventional in his writing. Then in his later works, I think he was influenced a little bit by some other world literature authors. So I like the more genuine way to write literature, but that's a personal issue. But it of course raised the awareness of Chinese literature worldwide. And that helps also, of course, other writers, young writers who are not so famous yet, because the publishing houses in Germany, after Chinese literature reached this recognition by the Nobel Prize, they tend to take more risk, also to invite some young authors to be published in German publishing houses. So this has changed a little bit the attitude with the publishing houses. And with Liu Cixin, I think this is a unique phenomenon. Of course, there's a very good science fiction literature scene in China with a lot of young authors also. However, I think it is important that we really have a good piece of literature. So it can happen anytime. There's might be one author who suddenly has a huge success, and we should also accept this is a unique phenomenon.